Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today to discuss my research, which explored the Planning Alternative Tomorrows with Hope PATH process with college students with intellectual disabilities. I'll discuss the background to this project and the aims I wanted to fulfill. I'll discuss the methods I used in order to conduct this project and explain what I found. I'll then highlight some of the key findings in the discussion and offer recommendations on PATH and future research. And I'll explain the relevance and impact of this study. So I carried out this study to fulfil the requirement of the dissertation of the Masters of Science in Disability Studies in Trinity. Also, as part of this Masters, students undertake a placement, and I did mine at the Centre for Inclusion and Intellectual Disabilities. This was formerly the National Institute for Intellectual Disability, and it was established to promote the inclusion of people with intellectual disabilities and their families. Their mission is to enable people with intellectual disabilities to develop their potential through a combination of high-quality research, lifelong learning, and professional training. One of the ways they promote lifelong learning is through an inclusive third-level educational programme entitled the Certificate in Contemporary Living, the CCL. The programme is aimed at transforming possibilities open to people with intellectual disabilities as they make transitions towards adult life and the workforce. Upon completion of the course, students undertake a person-centred transition plan called Planning Alternative Tomorrows with Hope, so PATH. So PATH is a very focused planning tool which helps to establish the student's desired future and plan how to achieve it. It's a tool that encourages supporting people with intellectual disabilities to work towards inclusion by planning for their futures and ensuring that the person most affected by the plan is at the centre of it. Researchers have identified that there's almost no evidence of the efficiency of person-centred planning in comparison to other approaches. Anecdotal evidence from the Centre for Inclusion and Intellectual Disability suggested that students were fulfilling their aims as outlined in their PATH. However, I found a scarcity of evidence-based research in relation to this. Considering this, I felt it was an extremely important and practical project to undertake. The aims of the research were to explore the life experiences and future plans of students as they transition from a third-level educational programme, to identify the responses of the study group to the PATH process, and to find out if PATH is an effective person-centred planning tool. I used a fixed purpose sampling strategy in order to obtain 9 participants. So I interviewed 4 students from the CCL, 4 of their parents, and 1 of the student support workers. The variety of voices allowed me to gain a different dimension into the experience of PATH. This table outlines the pseudonyms of the participants and their relationship to one another. This study took a qualitative methodology approach, so the participants were interviewed on 3 occasions during a 6-month period using semi-structured interviews. The first one was on the day of their PATH project, the second one was 3 months later, and the final one was 3 months later again. In order to protect the participants' confidentiality, I used pseudonyms throughout the project. I informed the participants that they had the right to withdraw from the project at any stage, so that their right to privacy was not infringed upon. And informed consent was really important, so I provided participants with accessible cover letters and consent forms. So I'll discuss each of the findings of the different cases separately. So the first case consists of the students, who will be referred to as Sarah, Michael, Brien and Mark. The themes that emerged were in relation to the impact of undertaking a third-level educational programme, their perceptions of PATH, the influence of others attending the PATH, and autonomy. Undertaking a third-level educational programme appeared to have a profound effect on the students. By interacting with their peers, they gained not only friendships, but a new sense of confidence. This confidence was further reinforced by the ability to explore and get to know the surroundings of their campus. The time spent in the company of fellow students raised the awareness of the varieties of abilities that existed within the group. During the interviews, the perceptions students had on PATH emerged. These were their uncertainties of the PATH process, the PATH poster, and the time frame, and their trepidation in relation to the time frame of PATH. So prior to the PATH sessions taking place, the students were given detailed demonstrations and accessible information. However, when asked about their expectation of PATH, most students were unsure of what it entailed. The visual aspect of PATH and having a concrete poster proved to be a valuable attribute. However, some felt that the poster was too large to be of benefit as they wouldn't be able to fit it on their walls. The students displayed anxieties when it came to deciding what goals they wanted to achieve. This was particularly evident during one of the path stages called First Steps. During these steps, students decide what they're going to do today in order to see their dreams come to fruition in 1 year's time. Many displayed trepidation in deciding what these first steps should be. It emerged that some of the students would have liked to include certain matters in their path but didn't. One reason was that students simply forgot to say it during the path session. Another reason, however, was that students chose to leave out certain names due to the fact that the presence of staff and parents made them uncomfortable. Some students showed an apprehension of saying everything they wanted to say for fear of what others would think. This was particularly evident when students spoke about romantic relationships. Some students stated that they would have liked to include these on their path, but they didn't because they weren't sure if it was a good answer or if people would want to hear it or not. However, some students did feel that the presence of parents and staff was encouraging and supporting. Students showed an apprehension in making their own decisions, yet they derived satisfaction out of it. They showed they had an acute awareness of others and that everyone has their own decision, their own interest to decide upon. Students felt that they gained a lot from the course in relation to their independence. They showed a desire to become more independent in order to release their parents of some of their responsibilities. Brien is currently living independently in an apartment for the majority of the week. Many students were eager to begin a new educational course or take up paid employment upon graduating. The students showed that they were either taking steps to achieve this goal by doing work experience or have achieved it by undertaking a new educational course. Students found it difficult, however, to find paid employment, and the 2 students who are employed work minimal hours. This case consists of the 4 parents of the 4 students who undertook the path. So their pseudonyms are Rachel, James, Ruth and Mary. Similar themes emerged, which were the impact of undertaking a 3rd level course, parents' perceptions on path, their attitudes towards autonomy, and a changed perception of their child. All of the parents felt that a 3rd level educational course had a significant impact on their child's life. They mentioned how it's been the most positive educational experience to date. They spoke of how much their child enjoyed the course and what benefits they got out of it. These mainly included enhanced independence and social development. Parents had different expectations of the path to what actually transpired and had different understandings of the impact of others attending the path. Even though the parents received information about the path, all of them appeared to have little knowledge of what it entailed. Some parents' expectations were low until they experienced it, and some of them stated that it passed their expectations. Some of the parents felt that the presence of others did not hinder their child stating what goals they desired, whereas some observed that the presence of parents or staff could cause their child to not state their true aspirations. Brien's mother did not attend the path as herself and her son felt that the presence of a parent could be inhibiting. Parents showed contentment that their child was given the opportunity to voice their own opinions. By allowing the voice of the student to be heard, parents were able to see how capable their child was in making their own decisions. The path prompted the parents to reflect on how they treat their child and what can be done to promote independence. Parents remarked on the necessity for independence, as they stated they won't always be around to support their child. The fact that Brien is living independently made parents realise that that could be a possibility for their child also. Parents put a strong emphasis on employment and education. They hoped a 3rd level educational course would have a follow-on programme or lead directly to paid employment. And in relation to friendships, parents felt that their child had been in touch with their friends from the course to some degree, but felt more could be done to preserve these friendships. The path allowed parents to view their child from a new perspective. This had profound effects on some of the parents. By attending her son's path, Mary gained a new insight into her son's social skills and strengths. It gave her the opportunity to reflect on her attitude towards her son and gave her a new perspective on the concept of disability. Tony is a support worker who attended the path at Brien's request. His involvement provides another angle into the exploration of path. When asked about the emphasis of the individual's voice in other person-centred plans he's been a part of, Tony noted, in some cases it can be what is practical and what is achievable. The emphasis on what is practical and achievable for an individual with an intellectual disability is an interesting concept, as this practicality and achievability can be subjective. In relation to independence, Tony saw vast development within Brien. He discussed how Brien's confidence had been enhanced and how well he'd coped with the change to independent living. Tony maintains that finding suitable employment and educational courses for individuals with intellectual disabilities is difficult. Brien currently works part-time in a motor car company. However, it only entails 1 day of work a week, and Tony is conscious that Brien needs more than that. I will now discuss some of the key findings and their implications. So in relation to social connections, students stated that they hadn't been maintaining their friendships from the course. However, parents felt that more support was needed to preserve these. So only one student spoke of friends outside of the programme, and this raises the question on the students' social networks. It appears students are dependent on their friendships from their third level course, so if this is the case, then ensuring these friendships are maintained is of vital importance. An intriguing finding was the recognition of the influence of others. Circumstances occurred where parent and child differed in their opinion on the impact of others. Some students stated that they were anxious about mentioning certain aspirations, yet the parents of these students were unaware of their child's apprehension. This is an important finding in relation to how students experience the path. If students feel that some of their goals cannot be disclosed in front of certain people, then the path may not be inclusive of their genuine goals. Common goals appeared in all of the students' paths. This made me question why there were so many similar goals. A reason for this could be the way in which path is executed. The path process incorporates a certain set of steps and questions, so the way these are posed could prompt similar responses. Tony, Brien's support worker, made an insightful remark in relation to previous person-centred plans. He stated that individuals do make their own decisions, but only when deemed practical by professionals. What is feasible to an individual is a subjective concept. One may not believe that an individual has the capacity to obtain certain goals, and so limits them from ever trying. In order to promote and sustain the autonomy of individuals, they should be supported in trying to obtain those goals, rather than never being given the opportunity to try. I compiled recommendations that may help alleviate some of the issues that the participants experienced during PATH. So I propose a pre-PATH meeting take place, and this way they will know what to expect of PATH and have an opportunity to be more prepared. As students stated the poster can be too large, I recommend they receive a downsized version or an electronic copy. I believe it's very important for the student to include people in the room that they feel comfortable revealing all of their goals with. I think it's presumed that it's the parents that will join them, but if this just serves to hinder what the student wants to say, then a rethink to who joins the path is needed. The path steps should be looked at deeply in order to ensure they don't encompass too many leading questions that may lead to similar goals. In relation to future work, I recommend that a research project like this is elongated to see how students fared after 1 year and further into the future. This research captured the voices of the students, parents and a support worker. In future research, the opinions of the staff coordinating the path should be included also. This will give a new insight into how the path is experienced. Research into the perspectives of other third level programmes in Ireland and internationally should also be explored. I found that research in relation to path is sparse. Even though this is a small case study and has its limitations, it still serves as a step towards investigating the path. Participants did find the paths to be an efficient tool, even if there are aspects that can be improved upon. Now that we know how students experience it, we can begin to take those steps to improve it. So there's just some references I used during the presentation. So I'd just like to say thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to contact me, you can by the email address there. Thank you again.